delighted to welcome back Steph and Reema from INC360. And just whilst they get set up and screen share and such, let me introduce them to you both. So we saw these amazing women at our last event. So their story, in a quick nutshell, is when entrepreneur Steph mixed her passion for tech with her desire to do social good, INC360 was born. Fast forward 2 months and she was joined by Reema, a colleague from their 9-to-5s, who has her own experiences of mental health and isolation. Today, this Leeds-based tech social enterprise supports young people who are experiencing isolation and anxiety by connecting them through community events using immersive video. Steph, Reema, over to you.
But thank you for the introduction, and to the other speakers as well this evening. It's been really interesting hearing other kind of social projects that are going on in Leeds. Please excuse us that we're going to be leaning forward to move through the slides, but hopefully that won't draw your attention away too much. So, as Mike said, we're Reema and Steph. We're from INC360, and our mission is basically to make everyone feel, we think everyone has the right to feel included. We're going to talk to you a little bit about our company and then the last couple of weeks, which have been quite busy. So, I'm Steph. I'm the founder and director of INC360. Founded it last year in July, so we're about 7 days away from our anniversary of being a year old. I currently work as an EA at the Data Shed. I've got a mental health first aid qualification and have a really big interest in mental health in general. I'm passionate about volunteering. I've done volunteering abroad and then in Leeds as well with a few different organisations. And I'm a big advocate for inclusivity in every sense of the word. So whether that's within work, with our day-to-day life, and then obviously with this company, you'll hear a bit about how we are inclusive.
Awesome, thank you. So as you've already said, Mike, so I joined a couple of months later. Steph and I work at the Data Shed together, where I also joined a couple of months later after you. As you've mentioned as well, Mike, oh no, the internet connection is unstable. Please, well, I was going to say let us know if it drops out, but you won't be able to.
We'll keep going and just
we'll talk to ourselves, that's fine. Yeah, as you've mentioned in the intro, thank you, Mike, I've got my first-hand experience of youth isolation. Yeah, I've definitely had a lot of anxiety growing up and still do now. I've also worked on youth outreach projects, so I've worked at the University of Leeds, helping kids realise that they can get to university too, where they otherwise wouldn't be able to. And as Steph points out all of the time, I'm not actually from Yorkshire. I'm from the south, as was the other guy who presented, whose name I've forgotten. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about what INC360 is. We did this last time when we were given the opportunity to do a lightning talk, but we'll go through that in a bit more detail. Talk about launching the business and where we're at with all of that, and some of our learning curves, which I think is the best thing that you can share, is how you mess things up, and our journey so far, and talk about what's next and what we can do for the Leeds and Tech for Good communities. So what is INC360? We're a community interest company. Steph set us up last year in July. We're going for a haircut to celebrate our 1 year anniversary. I'm really excited. Like collective haircut, but separately. And our whole focus is around tackling loneliness and isolation, and this is specifically within inpatient facilities. So loneliness and isolation, of course, has come up a lot recently with COVID, lockdown, and all of that sort of stuff. But we're looking at people that would have been in their own sort of sense of lockdown anyway, in hospitals and hospices. And our whole plan is to bring immersive videos of activities that these guys would otherwise not be able to go to. So using 360-degree video. So here's some numbers. As I said, I'm a data analyst, so couldn't get away with not putting numbers in here. There's 3.86 million 10 to 14-year-olds in the UK. So this is as of 2018, but still fairly recent. And there was also a study done around the same time that kids of the same age, the ONS did a study of them, and 436,000 that often feel lonely. And there was a lot of other sort of stats around the stigma associated with loneliness as well. And on the other side here, we've got 280,000 of, again, the same sort of age range were admitted to hospital in that same year. So what do these guys sort of have in common? So there was a study by the University of Southampton, and it's a really interesting study. I'd encourage you to check it out, where they looked at children who were in rooms completely on their own, so completely isolated, and looked at some of the themes that they felt. So one of the big things was essentially FOMO. They had, obviously a sense that they weren't part of the community that they were part of before, even with their families as well. They weren't able to take part in those sort of communities. There was a real theme around choice. Obviously, being in hospital or a hospice is not a choice that they've made. So they wanted to have some sort of opportunity to have some choice. And the last thing was any sort of relief, especially when you're in a room completely on your own. I can only imagine how that feels, as just being completely isolated, and that there was no sort of like comfort break or anything like that from the loneliness that they were experiencing. So hand over to Steph to talk about why we're doing 360.
Yeah, so as Reema said, we were wanting to create 360-degree video footage of community activities. So whether that be something like bonfire night or parades that are going on, basically anything that's going on in the city that these children might be able to hear going on outside, might go onto social media for a little bit of relief, and it's on their stream saying that all their friends and their peers are going and attending these events and they're just not able to get to them. So we want to be able to film those and then retrospectively play them in a VR headset for these young kids, and hopefully once 5G is a little bit better, we might be able to do it live as well. So we want to be able to attend facilities, hospitals, respite centres, and essentially bring the outside world to these children so that they don't have to go anywhere or feel like they're missing out. We want to be able to provide creative sessions, so not only will we provide the video footage that they can choose to watch and kind of pick from a library of different videos, we also want to be able to include kind of a creative session, so whether that's arts and crafts or whether that's taking the 360 cameras and getting them to have a play themselves and teaching them a little bit about videography or storyboarding, that kind of thing. We just want to make sure it's very inclusive and they're getting something a little bit more than just the video and then we disappear out the door. We're also going to make sure that we have a mental health care practitioner in every session with us, because whilst we have a general knowledge of mental health, we really want to make sure that their well-being is at the kind of forefront of the business. So we will have someone attending those sessions with us in case there was any triggers or anyone did feel uncomfortable or did want to open up about a mental health issue that they were dealing with. And then we want to make it collaborative. So we've said that between ourselves and a mental health care practitioner, and then obviously the staff in the organisation that we'd be going to or the facility, we would have up to 8 people at a time using the headsets. We also want to make sure that we provide iPads just in case anybody, or tablets of some kind, in case anybody has claustrophobia or is just not comfortable with having the headsets on. We want to be able to give them an alternative, really. So whether those 8 people are 8 children on a children's ward, or whether we have a couple of families and the parents and siblings want to join in, that would be absolutely fine as well. So when I say a session, like I say, we wanted to have the video of up to 30 minutes just because we're very aware of kind of motion sickness, and also it's quite intense. We might have some people using it that are quite young or that have never been in an immersive environment before, so we don't want to make it too intense and scare them off using it again. So we'll break that up with a bit of a session, and like I said, sharing discussions around mental health. We also really want to be able to signpost people. So obviously, whilst there's a lot of children that are in this situation, they've obviously got family as well that is also trying to deal with it on a different level. So being able to signpost the parents to local support groups, and then children, possibly peer apps, things that they can get involved in where they're not leaving the hospital or the respite centre, but are still able to connect with people in a similar situation, so that we're leaving that kind of lasting effect as well when we do leave. So there's been quite a few things that we've had to come up against, all very worthwhile stuff that we've had to discuss. So one of the obvious ones is safeguarding. We're going to be working with really vulnerable people, young people as well. So we've both safeguarding DBS checked, and any of our staff or anyone that volunteers with us going forward will also have to go through those 2 certificates. Certificates? Is it a certificate? Accreditation?
Things?
Yeah.
I don't know. Quizzes.
You can tell them they can do it. I won't be able to tell them. And then Yeah, so we're working with vulnerable people. We also recognise that we'll have a lot of different physical and mental capacities in terms of the people we're working with. So we want to really be able to tailor the content. So whether that's them being able to tell us there's this event that's coming up and I would really love to attend it, but I can't, so we can go out and actually film that on a request basis, or whether we're just tailoring content so that we're able to, for example, take away the audio or the visual, so that if they just wanted to watch the video without the sound or vice versa, then that's absolutely fine, and really tailor it so that person's getting the most out of that content. And then hygiene and accessibility. So obviously hygiene is the main thing at the minute. This has always been an issue for us before COVID, was going into children's hospitals or to people that are vulnerable. We can't just go in and always reuse the kit and have it moving around and visit loads of different centres in the same day. So that's already something that we were aware of, which has obviously become a massive hurdle now, that we definitely have a lot of learning to do around it still. So yeah, we're looking into ways of how we can either clean the kit that we've got or be able to replace it on a basis that's not going to cost us an extortionate amount, because obviously if we're using a lot of tech equipment, it's going to be really hard to replace that every time we visit someone. So yeah, we're still planning that bit. So in terms of planning, we are still in a startup phase. We've been going a year, but we've spent a long time researching, talking to people,
writing lists.
We've wrote a lot of lists. Like Reema's office wall has now been painted in blackboard paint so that we can just chalk everything out.
Lists of lists.
Lists of lists, yeah, and then we'll type it up as well and be like, did we write this list? Should we write a list about that list?
Yeah.
So yeah, we've done a lot of planning, which is good. But yeah, we've kind of got to a point now where we're wanting to get the wheels in motion. So we want to be able to create content. Just before lockdown, we were borrowing a 360-degree camera and just creating some of our own content, but we're definitely not videographers. So we're learning with that. But we want to be able to go out, test the content with people as well, because whilst we're not really old, we're not 12, and we're saying to 12-year-olds, this is going to be really cool and you're going to really enjoy this, and they turn around and say no. I tried to tell my little brother the idea, who's 10, and he was like, yeah, it sounds kind of good, but instead why don't you turn it into a backpack and then you do this? And I was like, oh no, it's gone.
Really
No, that's not what we're doing. So we really want to make sure that we're testing it and actually putting it in front of young people, because they are definitely going to be honest as to whether it's a good idea or not and what we need to work on. But again, with lockdown, we've still got a couple of more months until we can kind of get that in front of people. In terms of partnering with people, we've had some really good conversations with a couple of different organisations over the last kind of month or so, I guess, especially children's charities and kind of community groups, just to see what they have in terms of an end user, because again, we're very aware that we want to know what kind of struggles we're going to come up against and be able to talk to those people that have been working with these children for years on end, know them, know how this process works, and then kind of work backwards from there. So we want to try and partner with at least 3 organisations in the next 9 to 12 months, which is how we see our pilot service going. And then obviously we need to raise funds, because we need to be able to fund the service, buy some kit. The kit's expensive, and we just need to be able to support it. So luckily we already did that.
Yeah, what a great segue. Oh, that's not social distancing.
So we did a crowdfunder which finished on the 24th of June. So yeah, 2 weeks ago. Feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
We successfully raised £8,335 and we had a target of 8,000. So we're really happy to get that target and then get a little bit more.
Especially given at week 2 we were like, this is never going to happen. We didn't feel like that was going to happen. But yeah, so we did that. We had a very, very busy 5 weeks. We also did 11 events alongside this to basically start building our community. I think the other talks that we've had this evening obviously highlight that we can't get to everyone and we can't really build this community just on digital. But for us, that was the best way to start, making some noise about what we're doing. And we had some kid-friendly activities, which were sort of story times, and we created some stories.
We definitely had more fun than any kids on any of those calls.
Yes,
we loved it.
All of them are on our YouTube channel, and like I would encourage you to go and check them out. If not, just to see how silly we can be. It's quite fun, I think. But yeah, so we did that. So we had 17 speakers, 11 events, 5 weeks, lots of numbers thrown at you, but it was really, really good. I can't remember what's on the slide,
it was really fun.
Let's do that. Right, so it was 5 weeks of learning, that's for sure. So Steph's the designer, not really, but not officially, but I would say you are now.
Yeah.
So she's set this lovely blue. So we've had, so we got t-shirts as well. That was post-campaign. That was my treat to the two of us. That was fun. But we've had this logo for probably since the first month or two, and we've just taken that and just thrown it out. And so we've got these awesome cartoons done as well, and I think we've really built ourselves a brand that is fun and represents us and is very consistent as well. So good work, Steph, you did good.
Yeah, I didn't design the cartoons though. I'm not taking credit for those, but yeah, I think we found it quite difficult in the beginning to be able to market ourselves to everybody, because we're very much for children, but the conversations we're having are with investors, but we also need parents to trust that we're not, bringing anything bad to their children. So it was really hard to find that middle ground. I think that's what we struggled on in the first kind of couple of months, was understanding how to do that. So this is where the kind of cartoon idea came from, that it's something that everyone can enjoy and that also shows that kind of child-friendly side.
Which I think sort of leads nicely into that got to know our audience. I think as we have so many different stakeholders, as it were, not as it were, they are just stakeholders. We have so many different stakeholders, and I think this branding that we found does really sort of cover all bases there, and also doesn't feel like we're pretending to be someone we're not. And I feel really comfortable now when we talk about all of this stuff. And so yeah, I mean, the next one is say yes to anything free. I would just encourage everyone to do that. If you have the capacity to do so, I would say do it. We definitely have gotten to put stages where we're jumping from online event to online event, but as long as you've got a pen and paper with you and scribble some stuff down, I think that's really useful. And the last one says something that I can't see because this thing is in the way.
Check in with your values.
Yeah.
I think that kind of goes off of what you said about saying yes to anything free. So we've been ridiculously lucky over the last 12 months that the majority of people that we've talked to or approached has been so happy to help us, give us advice, talk to us about their experience. If they're not sure, they'll pass on the details of someone else. And that's just been instrumental to us and how we've been able to progress. And we're really grateful for that. And we're trying to do that now. So if anyone gets in contact with us, we will very much make time for people, because we've had that and we know how much it's helped. And we really want to be able to share that knowledge back with other people. But at the same time, whilst it's great having all of that advice, it did get to a point where we were just changing things because that's what people were saying. And especially in the beginning, when we were still kind of finding our feet, we hadn't had a business together, so we were still learning how each other works. We were learning about what's important with the business. And I think then when you have someone external come in and say, have you tried this? Or I don't think that's going to work. Why don't you go down this way? It's very easy to just turn around and be like, right, that's what they said, let's go for it. So I think just being able to say yes to the advice, yeah, we'll listen to you and that's great and we really appreciate your time. But then also having that time to just sit down and be like, okay, is this something? Yeah, does that actually align with what we want? Because this is our end goal and this is the company that we're building and this is the mission that we're on. And does it align with that? Because if not, it's really great advice and that person is obviously trying to help you, but not every bit of advice is going to be relevant for everything that you're doing, but it can still be respected and appreciated.
But one of the first things of advice that we ever got was at the Tech for Good event that we went to, which was the first ever event we went to as INC360, and someone whose name I cannot remember introduced us to Ellie Snare. I think she's Eleanor Snare online, and we had a chat with them and it was the best thing. I think what they said was basically just trust your gut and figure out what you're doing. And since then we've certainly like not done that every time, but I think that's something that I would say is, you know, always trust your gut. And there's been a few people that we've spoken to where actually one of us has not been sure, and that feels like it's the right thing. And then so we've always got the best things out of the most productive conversations out of things we've both been so excited on.
Definitely.
So I would, that was what
I think so. Also, if you're trying to find a business partner, find one that tells you when they've got pizza in their teeth at Tech for Good before you go and talk to people, because that's what Reema did for me, which was really nice.
That's when we knew, wasn't it? That's when we knew this.
That's when I was like, this is good.
It's a good choice.
Yeah.
It's a romantic relationship. Right. Oh, well, next slide. Here we go. Takeaways. What's it say? Talk about what you're doing. That's what we're doing. We're here. We're talking about what we're doing. I think this sort of goes to being proud and being sure of what it is that you're doing. And I think, you know, without getting too gushy, I do feel lucky that, you know, it's not just me on my own. But also, I think you just have to keep shouting about what you're doing, because telling people out loud what it is that you're doing, you suddenly get that time to reflect as well and be like, oh, okay, I've just said that thing out loud, I better go and do it now. So do you want to go on to the next one?
Yeah, so plan early and adapt quickly. So we did a lot of planning, specifically around the crowdfunder. We did a lot of planning. Obviously, it's something that we wanted to actually launch in April, but obviously due to lockdown, we pushed it back. So we already had a few ideas and a few things that we wanted to do. But we planned everything from social media on Hoots. We planned all the events, obviously, quite far ahead, and then booked people working full time as well. You have to have good time management, and you have to plan everything, because if something drops, then it's gone. And that, even though the 5 weeks felt really long, it was, every day felt really quick.
Yeah.
It felt like you're on to the next day. And if you've missed an opportunity, then you really feel it. So having said that, obviously you need to be able to adapt quickly. So we had a few things that would come up out of the blue, whether that was a meeting or someone got in touch about something. And we just had to kind of drop everything and be like, right, okay, what do we need to prioritize now? Right, it's this. Let's realign everything that we've got on that backlog or on Reema's wall. So yeah, being able to adapt quickly is definitely
I think one of the best examples that we have of that is the Black Lives Matter movement, as obviously, as it should, being a massive predominant feature in social culture at the moment. And we had a chat with someone who is person of colour led creative magazine, and we had to make sure that conversation was in there. It was not a question, it was then part of every single event that we had, and we're just making sure that we can use our platform to talk about the things that are important to us. So yeah, that was one of our better uses of being adapting quickly. And I can see what time we're on, so I think we need to adapt and make this a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So building your network, just build your network as soon as possible. You know, talk to people, talk to them online now, because that's all you can do. But go on LinkedIn, you know, find out what people are doing, send them messages. I don't think I've ever received a message that says, what does it say? You know, what you're doing is great, and not being happy about it. You know, if you send someone a message and say what you're doing is awesome, I think they're going to love it. So
Definitely.
Yeah, that's good. Take time to reflect.
Yeah, I think that's like what we said on the last slide about just being able to look back and to take some time, reflect on what you're doing, and figure out ways to do it better, or keep going if it's working.
Yeah.
So, next one. So do a quick rundown of what we've been up to. How are we doing for timing, Mike?
Pretty bad.
Yeah, another 5 minutes, I think.
Oh yeah, well done. Right. Cool. Thank you. So
we took loads of selfies over the last year. There's more than just what we have here, but as Steph said already, we have borrowed video cameras and filmed stuff. We have not necessarily done a good job of that. There's been better days than other days. The first time we filmed was Bonfire Night last year. That was not a good video that we made. We talked the whole way through it. The lighting was bad. Lots of different lessons that we learned there. We've also made sure to go to as many events as we can, so whether they're online or otherwise. There's a photo there of Steph at Berkeley Eagle Labs in town, where we got to play with some headsets. That was very fun and very dizzying, but very good. We've had loads and loads of late nights. That's us in the corner there on Saturday last week. after doing a massive retro, just going through everything that we had done well, not so well, and things that we need to start doing following the campaign. That was a really insightful day. It was very, very good. And I mean, most exciting, we've been in the newspaper. We've been in the actual physical newspaper. Yeah, that was great. That was a week before our crowdfunding campaign finished, and it was just lovely. It was. I went to the shop with the dog, and I got the paper, and it was in it. So that was cool. But essentially, yeah, as we've said already, we've talked to loads of people, had loads of meetings, created loads of lists, and we're just going to keep on doing all of that stuff, basically. So, what's next for INC360? We are going to create and test a pilot service. So we have, as mentioned already, we've been in talks with a few hospices, and we've talked to the hospital before as well. And what we want to do is test out our service and make sure that this £8,000 that we've raised can go as far as possible. The aim for the next sort of 6 to 12 months, COVID dependent, is to get at least 2 pilot service models tested, and to learn from that and figure out what we can do going forward. We will continue to apply for grant funding, and we've got like a tiered pricing model so that we can start, you know, sort of implementing that and testing that out too. So yeah, the grant funding, there's a lot of COVID funding out there at the moment. We've been looking at a few of those, but sort of trying to keep an eye on as many as we can, really. And yeah, keep on building networks and hosting events. We had loads and loads of fun. As much as it was hard work doing all of those events over the crowdfunding campaign, we did cooking, we did data talks talking about accessibility, yeah, the silly storytelling as well. So we'll keep on doing that. So keep an eye out for any events that we'll be running. They'll definitely be online for the foreseeable, I guess.
Yeah, and we'll be looking for speakers as well. So we've talked to people about inclusivity. We did talks about data, accessible workplaces, that kind of thing. So if you are wanting to talk, just drop us a message, because we would like to some panelists, and also just to do some one-on-one conversations as well.
Yep. So what can we do to help you? So we did our crowdfunder, we learned a lot of stuff. We would love to be able to help anyone else who's doing crowdfunding, even just to soundboard some ideas. As we said, well, as I said gushingly, I'm lucky to have Steph, who we can soundboard stuff off of, and I think it's really useful to have that. We had a call with someone down in London yesterday, and just talked to them about their crowdfunding campaign as well, which was great. So if anyone wants any help in that arena, then definitely let us know. And the other thing is let's go for a virtual coffee, or a real life coffee. I think we can do that now, as long as we're just staying far apart. Yeah. So drop us a line, and we've got Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff is going to be on the slide in a second. But let's go for coffee and let's chat about stuff. That would be lovely. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
We're still very much learning as well, so we're definitely open to advice. If you know of anybody, or you know any opportunities coming up, or you're doing something similar, or doing something that you feel aligns with it, then we're definitely open to those conversations. And yeah, we like to meet new people.
Awesome. What have we got next? And there we go. There is all of our online stuff. Mike has done a wonderful job of sharing lots of our stuff before as well. So if you follow Mike,
thanks,
then
Mike.
You'll find us online there. And that is it. If we have time for any questions, then we'd love to take them, but we know that we've definitely stretched our 20 minutes, so sorry.
It's okay. Thank you both an inspiration, and congratulations on the 1-year anniversary, hitting your target on fundraising as well. That's great. There's a couple of questions that I've got, and I think there's 1 or 2 that have popped up as well. So just rapid fire, if you don't mind. Paul has said on the chat that it sounds like there's potentially an opportunity for gaming. Is that kind of part of the plan, or, you know, is it more immersive video?
At this stage, definitely more immersive video. I think the offline element of it, having these creative activities alongside it, is something we want to do, because we want to have something that the kids can use and utilise once we're gone. And if we're sort of putting too much of a focus in the headset aspect of it, then it feels like we're not giving them so much.
Yeah, I think this is a big part of it. Well, the main part of it is community. So it's about having those real life experiences and experiencing the same thing as a friend. So we're very much focused on kind of the 360 video for the time being.
Cool. One question that I had whilst you were talking was, is there an opportunity for kind of crowdsourcing the video content and getting other people to create 360 videos and kind of sharing those, you know, digitally? So it's not all, the emphasis isn't all on you guys creating those videos. You know, can people contribute as well?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'd really like it if we would be able to kind of open source something so that people can submit videos or people can share what they've been doing. Like you say, it just helps with the reach and building content, because we're not going to be able to create it all, and it would be great if someone is going out and already doing that for them to be able to share it and spread that out.
Another one with the 5G hopefully becoming a bit more stable is filming family events. So my family's huge, we have 30-40 people parties all the time, obviously not at the moment, and being able to be there, at least that would be like a little bit closer, and sort of having that live streamed and having that conversation there would be really cool. I'd love to be able to do that.
Awesome. Final question that's come through. What's the biggest challenge that you've faced over this last sort of 6 months or so?
6 months.
Or you know, since you started on this sort of journey, what's been the single biggest challenge?
Is probably one that a lot of people have faced, is working this alongside my day job. I love my day job so much. I'm very, very passionate about data. If you've ever spoke to me and mentioned the word data, you'll see my eyes light up. And that's what I do 9 to 5. And I'm so passionate about this as well. And sometimes you just want to do both so much, or you want to do everything all the time. And that's really hard. So I struggle with that balance, but Steph keeps my time management in check, so it's okay.
I get bossy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think probably balancing it off, yeah.
Thank you both so much, and a massive thanks to everyone, all the speakers.